take you on a tour of my studio, show you a few of my toys. We'll start over here, Yamaha CS15. The CS5s always were popular, CS10s. The 15, what I really liked about it, it's got two filters. It's the modulation settings on this are really, you can really do a lot with them. You can put things into things like double the filters, so you've got, you know, your high pass, low passes on each one as well. Also got 2 envelopes, which is really handy. And yeah, you could get some really nice sounds out of it, real sort of squelchy, sort of 303 soundy sort of stuff, which is pretty cool. This Jupiter 6, I love the Jupiter 6. It's it's a classic Roland synth that everybody knows about. Good chord sounds. What else do I use it for? Really good on arpeggio stuff as well, and getting quite thin sort of arpeggio sounds in the background. Uses quite a lot. This one, the Beast SH5, another Roland synth. What we've been using this a lot for lately is bass. It just sounds, it's actually set up at the moment, and we've just got this sort of bass sound that comes out of it. So not so much in the 60 hertz area where you sort of get the low end kicks, but it gets it right in the middle somehow. And the way we do it is it's got two filter sections on it, and it's the bandpass filter that really pushes it out in the mix. It's hard to explain what it does, but it just gets this huge bass sound. So it's kind of just been left and set up, and then we can do fifths if we want to change it quickly and get a really nice sound out of that. In the corner there's a Korg Prophecy, which has not been plugged in for years. Under here, what we got here? An old drum synthesizer for your disco balls. It's good for that, but of course it's sitting under the Synths doing nothing. Okay, we go over to here. We've got a rack of Kentons, which obviously EV to MIDI, which I think one of them is going to this. 1, 2 we use for the ARP 2600. ARP 2600, another classic synthesizer. I love the ARP 2600. It's got such a big sound, and it's kind of one of those things you can sort of just keep plugging away and get really unexpected sounds. I mean, it's one of those things you can get a bit carried away with it and just sit there for hours on end. It's also got its own spring reverb in, which is a really good part of this machine. And what we also do with it, we've got a Motu 828 here, and we've got this connected so it can be used as CV gate as well, directly from the computer. And what it does is some software called Expert Sleepers that sends voltage controlled signals down. Then we can plug these into the synths, like the modular we have over here, and we're actually doing it by this light pipe unit here. This actually goes into the Motu, and the light pipe turns to CVs and gates. And of course we've got like one CV there, one gate. We'll go into multiples, so we've got CV gates, then we can go into oscillators, but we can go into the System 100 over here, the ARP, the new MS-20. Really great bit of kit, because the software itself has got, it tunes the oscillators for you. It's got LFOs, all kinds of stuff, but you're actually working them as plugins from your DAW. So it gives you really good control over your modular synths, which is really cool. Bought that this week actually. A Proteus 2. I got it for 50 quid. That's the best buy I've had in ages, and I don't know. There was something about them old Emu sounds, and I've actually within the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks we've started this new project, and it's sort of, how can I explain it? It's kind of like it's what I was doing years ago with house music stuff, bit deep house. Jacking kind of stuff, but it was all the sounds that were used were always in the vein of the old Proteuses and digital synths like JD800 and the Korg wave stations. I've just actually bought a Korg M1 as well again, which hasn't arrived yet. But I did have one years ago, but I gave it to a mate of mine and then forgot about it. Anyway, yeah. So I'm going to buy some more of the Proteus stuff and the old Emu bits. I really like them. They've just got, I don't know, they've got a classic sound about them that just work in dance music, and they just sit in the mix. So probably next time you come down, I'll have a big stack of them. Because, yeah. Right, what else we got here? Patch Bay, which is mostly it's some of the synths that run here. And they go through a DI box, which then we go through the Neves. So we've got like a DI converter, so you can actually run the DI boxes into the mic preamps, and you can get some really good gain out of the synths. It gives it a nice big sound as well. Down here, Moog Voyager, which classic. I suppose now a new classic. We've also got the plug-in. Is it a sound tower? I think so the plug-in, it comes up as a AU or a VST, and you can control the whole synth via the plug-in, which is really handy. And it just everything you move, it records all the automation of the synth, and it's also got a massive library inside the plug-in too, so you can get a lot more out of the synth. I'm finding just latency issues with it, but we found a way to set it up to get around that. What else we've got? Poly Evolver. Again, there's a sound tower piece of software that we have with that as well, which, I mean, without the software, it would be very hard to program because there's no controls really on the front. I mean, the reason I like getting the rack stuff is because it's less space. It'd be nice to have the keyboards, but my studio's not very big and I haven't got the room to put all the synths in. So that's why I buy racks. But if there's like controlling software, that's great. My old trusty Emu Emulator 4. It's not been turned on for a while, but it's something I won't sell because it was back in the day when I was working on an Atari and a full MIDI setup. I used to have about 2 or 3 of them stacked up, that and an SP1200 drum machine, which I've got lying around somewhere still, which is not being used, but I'm thinking about putting that back out as well. It was what always got me on them was the Z-plane filters. There's just something about them. I've been working on a track recently where I did put all the samples into there, and I just done it by the digital in and out and sampled everything that I'd done in the computer, put the samples into it, and it was just working the filters, and some of the sounds we were getting out of it was amazing. So the only thing is with mine, the Emu, the buttons wear out. So mine are jumping around at the moment, so I need to find someone to put some new buttons in. Right, okay, here we have a knife. Not that I use knives. Okay, I'll pick up, there's a few little toys lying around. Jomox M-Bass 11. This is does kick drums, basically. It's a little analog machine, goes down to about 10 hertz. Like, really shakes the room. Yeah, it's quite handy. It's sort of based on the 808 and 909 kick drum, which most electronic kick drums are based on, and it's very versatile. There's a lot of different parameters on the machine, so it's quite limitless what you can do, but it's a really good way to get an analog kick drum without spending loads of money. I mean, I think it was about 100 quid, something like that. Very handy machine to have. Right, my battered 303, which we actually changed some of the buttons in it, so it's because when you program it, get that double click. So yeah, it still works, and we still use it every now and then. Done a couple of tracks recently with it, but it's like, that's why they sit in the corner, you pull them out every now and then. It's that, what have we got here? Muga Fruga Murph, which is a nice pedal. It's got like a step sequencer of frequencies on, so you can clock to the CV gates and throw your sounds through, move the frequencies, and get different types of steps running through the frequencies. MIDI clocked, which is really cool. I like that one. What else we got down here? An Octava Cat with not many knobs on it, but it does work. That's a really big sounding analog synth, actually. Really like that one. This is Casio CZ101. I used this on a track recently, and it was sort of like this really soft road sounding sound that I used it for, but also found that original rave organ on it as well, which I think was on the Too Bad Mice record, Bomb Scare, which I didn't realise it actually came from one of these, because we've only had this about, I don't know, 6 months or so. But it's quite mad. You can pick up all these little machines now for next to nothing, 50 to 100 quid, and you get some really interesting sounds out of them. Don't be put off by the name Casio. There's some good shit there. Right, what else we got here? Broken socket. Oh, old Sherman filter bank, which is obviously in the corner behind everything, that doesn't get used that much anymore, but I still like these. I used to have the big one. They done a limited run of them, and there was like four of them in one box. I think the Chemical Brothers got the first one. I think we had about number 20 or so. There's about 1,000 made, but I sold it because there just wasn't any use for it, but I still kept this one. What else we got? Okay. Moog, MIDI Moog. This is basically a real mini Moog, but in a rack version, which was made by Studio Electronics. This thing sounds absolutely massive, just like a mini Moog basically, but it's got a few more controls on it, obviously, because it's MIDI. So you've got more after touches and things like that. There's more sort of controls down here. We sort of always go to that for basses as well as the SH5 sub. I love using that for the sub bass, because the sine wave on it is just absolutely huge. But that's the mini Moog thing. You just press one of the keys and it shakes the room. It's just known for that. This one, a Roland JP 8080. Haven't used this much recently, but it's known for the big super saw sounds. That's why everyone sort of bought them. But I picked it up cheap for about 400 quid, I think. It's got some good features on it. It's the voice modulation thing. It's got a kind of vocodery thing that I want to mess around with a little bit more, to be honest. Under there's a Technics SL 1210. I've literally had most of my, I have had all my vinyl put into storage recently, because where I had the mixing console in the studio before, we had it moved out, and all my vinyl was on the walls, and we couldn't get the desk out. So it all went into storage with my good friend Matt Playford, because he has a storage company. So I think the deal was we put it into storage, you can sample all my records, and that's the deal. All right, the modular system. All right, I've got the System 100 with the expander unit. I've always loved the System 100. I've had a couple of them. Well, I had a fire a few years ago, so the original ones I had I lost. But I bought it again, and I was in Japan, and I went into G5 shop, and I saw the expander there, and I thought, right, I've got to get the expander, and it gives it another oscillator, and it basically doubles the synth, the power of the 100. I would actually, a lot of my friends have been raving about the System 100 modular, which it was actually Paul from Orbital. I had a drink with him last week, and he just bought one and said it's an amazing piece of kit. So maybe that's one to add to the list of many other things I want to get in the future. Okay, over to modular system. I'm quite new to the modular world. I've only sort of started buying them about just over a year ago, I think, and it's been quite fun because I've sort of been swapping bits. I lent this one to a couple of friends of mine, the guys from Uncle, and then he lent me his unit of boxes and different modules, and then there was James from Freemasons. He lent me some as well, so we've been messing around with a lot of them. It's really cool what you can do with the modular stuff. It is very time consuming though, and you need a lot of patience, and it doesn't get used as much as it should because I'm just sort of busy with work schedules and records I'm trying to finish. I think it's more of a thing if you've got spare weekend and you just want to noodle around for a weekend, you get noodling. It's one of those things though, if you have got time and you do spend the time and sit there, you come up with some amazing sounds, and just stuff that you wouldn't generally think of. It's a very small system I've started building, but it's like when you buy these, it is like opening another can of worms. Go, right, I want to get this one, I want to get that, but it's just small. I think I put the Dark Energy synth in there because I did. A friend lent me the little box of the Dark Energy. I really liked it. I couldn't believe for such a small synth the sound you could get out of it. There's some more oscillators. Is it? What have we got? I don't know what that one is. Is it wave? It's some sort of digital wave shaper that just does mental sounds. There's loads of different filters in here. We've got the EMS VC3 filter, the MS20 filter. What was the other one? We've got the Oberheim expander filter in there as well. And there's bit crushers, phase shifters, and they just sound really good. So another thing we do from the patch bay is just if we've got tracks running on the computer, we'll run things in and out the modules as well to get effects, which you get some really interesting effects out of them as well. Right, the Korg new MS20. Not played much with it yet. Not sure if the CV and the voltages are the same as these now, because the Korg and like the Yamaha CS stuff, they had a different voltage, or was it hertz or something? Yeah, they do hertz. I don't know the terms, but I know they just don't gel together very well. So I think this one actually does gel with the modular stuff now. Obviously, when you interviewed me before, I had a Korg setup, which was an MS20, MS50, MS10. I've still got the MS50, but when I saw this come on the market, I just put my 20 and my 10 up for sale and got rid of them because, what was the point? And to be honest, it sounds exactly the same. I couldn't find anything different about it except where my old 20 was a bit crunchy. What the dust it had collected over the years. This was much cleaner. So, yeah, I mean, was it 500 quid? Well, it's absolute bargain, considering they were going for about £1,500 for the 20. the original one. I'd say that's a pretty good price. Korg have got some interesting machines coming out at the moment. They've done I saw them at exhibition a few weeks ago, and it was like a little 303 module they've got, a little 808 sounding drum machine. I can't remember what they were called. What were they called?
Volkers.
The Volkers, which you know, I suppose they're good fun. A few toys, cheap, 100 quid. I thought it sounded pretty good for what they are. Didn't have a real sort of 808 there to compare it to, but you know, but yeah, not bad. So I think Korg, thumbs up on that one. Well done, Korg. Okay, sort of my main console now. I did have a big mixing desk, and the last time you were here, and that's gone. I've just got with the times, basically. The mixing desk wasn't really getting used as much as it should have been, so I let it go. And I'm working. I'm kind of mixing the box now, but kind of not. What I did to replace the desk, I bought 48 channels of I/O conversion. So my sort of my converters are a mixture of stuff. The main ones for my main sound, I use the Prism Orpheus. My stack of converters are over there in the corner, out the way. So I've got a Prism Orpheus, which I use for the master, and then for 8 channels I've got things like reverbs. I've got like Lexicon here, 224 reverb, which goes directly into that. I do all my vocal recording directly into that as well, because it's quite a clean, untouched sound. So I really like the Prisms for that. And the master out of the Prism goes here to the Crookwood, which is my speaker desk center selector. It's a really, really lovely piece of kit. This is very, very transparent. So I've got all my speakers connected to it and different inputs, and I've got digital inputs as well. So I've got digital and analog inputs connected, so I can monitor different parts of the mix. Like what I'll do, I'll set up a digital input in my bus chain. Then I can listen to my parallel compression on its own, and reverbs and stuff. And you know, it's just a little bit more precise. You can go in and hear like things that are jumping out that you don't really want jumping out, because I think that one of the things I learned with mixing, we've been mixing for so many years, is it's all the little spikes in things and stuff that can really take your depth out your mixes. So I really liking the Crookwood. A little bit better than the Mackie Big Knob, I would say. Right. So yeah, all my convert systems over there. So yeah, I use the Prism. I've got a Prism Lyra here as well, which is the new cut down version of the Orpheus, which is a great little machine. I use this for 2 things. One, for traveling, because it's small enough, and well, I'm just going to different studios recording stuff, and it's the mic pre's on it as well. It's really, really good. I've tried it out. I've just taken my microphone and gone and recorded some old synths at mates' studios, and just put the mics up to speak and take my laptop. And I also use it on a separate computer for mastering. So I'll have all my gear running, and then I can run, because I run everything at 44.1, because I've got too much gear to be running things at 96, and it will just, you know, just cause too much problems. It's just, you know, I don't feel the technology is quite there for that yet, for me, not for me anyway. So what I can do then is use this converter on another computer and record the master at 96, and then just use some dithering software to get it back down to a 16-bit master. But it just, if you use like good software like the Wii's Saracon, which is very good, is what I use, just to dither the sample rates back down, and you get a really good full sounding mix. So yeah, so my converters, so I've got the Prism Orpheus, the Prism Lyra, Lynx Aura 16, an old Apogee 88,000, which I really like because you can I don't use the limiters on them, but like I'll put drum sounds in and really go in the red and smash them, and they sort of react like tape machines did. And you know, if you're listening to the monitoring, you can push it as hard, and when it starts distorting, then you back it off. But the meters don't actually move; they're just in the red like that all the time. So you can get some really good sound with the 88,000, and that's why I kept it. Then I've got another 2 converters over the other side of the room to do all this gear, which is just the Apogee AD and DA 16s, which sound great as well. So that's my conversion system. All of my gear is hardwired into the converters, apart from a few effects which I've just left on a patch bay over the other side of the room. So that's how my conversion is working now. Basically, the great thing is it's like let me pick a bit of gears. I don't know, say the GML 8900 compressor, and you know, as you're working, I work in Logic, and I've just got into Logic X actually. I'll talk a little bit about that later. So I work in Logic, and it's like basically bringing up a plugin, but you just bring up an I/O as you do in your plugin chain. And I've got a list of what each converter is. Obviously, I'm used to them now because I'm working in here every day, and I just basically bring it up over the track that I'm working on, and then I've got the sound of the GML or the UE 1178. I've owned 3 of those, and this is my favourite one. There's just a sound about this one that's just amazing. And it's the same with over here. Eventide 8000, which I've been using for quite a long time now. I've always been a fan of the Eventide effects. A lot of them are pretty bonkers, and I don't use them so much for reverbs. It's more just special effects. It's got some amazing delays and pitch shifters, obviously, because that's what they're known for. They were always called the harmonizers, but no, it's more of an effect. Manly, massive passive, it's okay. I really like these 2, the Amtex program equalizers, which are based on the Pultex, but obviously a remake. It was Poland that makes these, and I bought them directly off him, and I bought 2 of them, and they're calibrated exactly the same. So I use these for a number of things. I use them on my master mix as well at the end, just to tickle. Like I put 1 dB of boost, 1 dB of cut, but the great thing about these is the controls here, it gets past 16K. It's got secret ones. It's got 20K there. It goes to a 20K shelf. So basically, what you do then is you can whack your top end up. I usually do it to about 3 dB. And put the bandwidth forward so it opens up, so it's not so sharp. And then the great thing about the Pultex was the attenuation. So you know, you just take off that sort of digital harshness, but it gives it a nice, lovely air over the whole mix. So I really like using them. The original 384 SSL bus compressor, which I also use on my master. It's just the controls never move, and literally the way I've got it set up, it just tickles it. The first bit, my master chain, the first bit of analog gear it goes into is the SSL, and the meter hardly moves. So it's probably like half a dB or so, and it just tickles. The Lexicon 224 XL, which is my favourite reverb. I do use reverbs in the box for just for clap sounds, actually go on the channel, but for sort of master buses and like vocals, I still use the 224 XL. I've also got a big EMT 140 plate, which is the big 6-foot reverbs, but that's actually next door hidden, that comes up on the patch bay, which is, you know, it's a lovely bit of kit. It's a bit noisy, but it sounds great. So yeah, most of my effects are still done out of the box between the Eventide, Lexicon, EMT plate and the AMS delay over there. Over here we've got the Akai Renaissance. This has been a really good for me. This is probably the best bit of kit I've had my hands on in a while. I always worked with drum machines, and from, you know, where I was doing my early stuff with the Rhythm Master stuff and the house stuff, I always used an EMU SP1200, which I still got that one that we used. We changed the faders. I think it was earlier on this year because they're just knackered, and I still do use it. But the great thing about the Renaissance is it's a kind of in the box solution with drum machine. I've got the Native Instruments machine lying around somewhere as well. But what I kind of found with that was the sound quality I wasn't feeling, and I felt it wasn't very tight. The grooves and the swing wasn't tight enough to what I'm used to working with. Then I got my hands on this. Akai actually demoed this to me before it was coming out to the streets, and I was just blown away by it. And this basically has changed the way I work. I'm now starting all my records in here, and it's just samples, and yeah, the sound is really tight. It's got this function here. It's got like vintage modes. So it's got the MPC 3000, which sounds good. MPC 60, which is a sound I'm tend to always using. It just gives a real sort of attitude and punch to the drums. Then it's got other, which I think they've tried to copy the SP1200, but it's not. It does. It just sort of does a bit of crush. So I'm not convinced by that. But the 60 mode is great. So I've actually my home studio, because I've got to have a studio at home. Well, it's not really a studio. It's basically an Apple Mac laptop with Logic and Ableton in it. And I've got the MPC Studio, which is a small silver one. So yeah, my studio at home is the MPC Studio, a laptop, a screen, a couple of speakers, a mouse and keyboard, and that's it. And that's all I use at home, because I think sometimes working in spaces like this where you're surrounded by so much gear, you can get carried away. But if you're just trying to sketch ideas and write pieces of music, all right, and I've got a little keyboard as well. So, and I've just found myself at home, like, creating on one of these all the time. And you can control from here, so you get your samples up. And also plugins as well. So let me go through it. And the actual plugins on it are quite good. Let's see the wub. And I had some sort of bass sound going. Like that one. Dodgy String. There was another one. Yeah, so that was the bass I was using. Try and find the filter. So yeah, it's its own plugins in there. I think there was a record I released this year called Ghetto Party, which was the first release on my new label Black Rock, which was one of the plugins. I think it was the wub to get. There's some like big brass sound in it, and it was a plugin on the Akai called the wub, and I literally was just making the track and played it off the keyboard and thought, wow, that it's quite offensive, that sound. should I use that or not? It's quite, so we went, yeah, it sounds really good. Let's go with it. And yeah, that was all created in here. So it's made my workflow really good. And it's given me my old sound back a bit, because where I used to work in the Logic drum machine, and I kind of liked I really liked the swing on Ultra Beat. It gave, that was the closest thing I sort of found to the SP1200, but it was so fiddly with the start and end points trying to work them. So this come along, and it really has changed the way I work. And the great thing about it, it's like you do all your programming, and because I don't actually like to create the whole song in there. What I'll do is, like, if I get 2 bars, 4 bars, 16 bar loop going, do all the changes I need, and then if I want some rolls, I'll just do them on another channel so they're there, and then you just do this. Exports. It's audio mix down, and it doesn't work. Or did I miss it? There we go. It's audio mix down. Then you can go separate tracks, of course, A, 24-bit, 44.1, and then you basically press export, and bang, it's done in 2 seconds. It puts it on a folder onto your desktop, and then what I do is basically get that folder, drop them into Logic, then I'm away, and I've got all the feel and the sound of the MPC. Then I've got it into my Logic. Then I can start processing the sounds how I want, using some of the outboard gear, using some of the effects in the box, whatever I want to do basically. Also, so the MPC was a really big addition to my studio. The other thing that was really big addition was the monitoring. I've got the PMC AML2s. They've actually also changed the way I work. I was always, been stuck in my ways for years, mixing on NS10s and the big Genelecs in the background, and an Auratone, which is, they're still great on radio mix. I still like the Auratone, but the PMC's just opened up a different world to me. They sound amazing. And, sort of coming into a world now where production is so different to what it was 10 years ago. We've got we're in this whole digital world, and there's this whole loudness war going on, and A&Rs and producers, they just want records as loud as possible, and to achieve that, you have to really be surgically EQing everything to get it to sound and sit right in the mix. The PMCs have really opened my ears up to that. When the guy from PMC came down, he set them up, and I played the first record, and within 20 seconds I went, they're the ones. Before we tried quite a lot of speakers in here. We were just looking for that midfield speakers, and so we tried a lot of Adams, which I wasn't really feeling personally. A lot of the focal ones as well, and I know they're really popular, but I just felt there wasn't a full enough sound in them either for what I was looking for. But then came across these, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And basically, they have changed the way I mix. My mixes are just sounding so good now. You get to a point where you're really happy, because that's taken me a long time to get to that point, because I'm never really happy. It's like, oh God, but it could have sounded a bit better there, or this and that. Now I'm actually going home, listening to the records at home or at friends' houses, and I'm like, shit, that sounds really good. I'm happy with that. Maybe I could just drop that level a bit, and then I'm fine. Playing the records out, they sound fantastic. It's really changed the way I mix. My other monitors, I've still got my NS10s. There's a little screen up there which usually has a spectrum analyzer, which we never use. The Auratone, classic, sort of radio leveling speaker, good for getting your vocals fixed up. I've still got the big Genelec 1034s, which at one point I was thinking about getting rid of them, because there's such a big speaker to have in this room, but they're great. You can actually work on them quite low, and all I use them for now really is to sort my bottom end out, because you know, it's like 4 12-inch drivers, and the bottom end is massive, so I can get my mixes. I get the bottom end so low in the mixes, and I've got it totally controlled, and then I can still come back over to the PMCs and just, you know, so my ears are not getting shot to pieces anymore like they were. What else we got over here? An iPad, which I've been using this for the new Logic X controller, which is fantastic. We're just trying to find it. It probably won't find it because it's not booted, but it's got great things. It's like got arpeggios on it, and like even chord sequences as well, so it gives you the key of the record and loads of chords come up, and it's great. You can just sort of sit here and, like, you've got the, I don't know, the J800 over there, and you're just playing chords from it. It's amazing. And so yeah, it's Logic Control. It's actually a free app on the Apple Store. It's really good. There's a couple of other things we're about to start trying out. I think it was a MIDI Designer Pro, which was a good friend of mine, Shadow Child. I saw him, was it last week? He was in Brighton, so we hooked up, went for some dinner, and he was saying, because I've got a JD 990 over there, and we were talking about earlier, they're getting back into digital synths and how they're becoming relevant again, well, in our world. But it's MIDI Designer Pro. It basically wireless to your Mac, and then it'll go to your MIDI ports, and basically you can just start, like where JD 990 has got no controls on the front of it, so you have to go through all them small editor pages on the small screen, and with this it's just mapped out, so you can actually start shaping the sound of the synth from your iPad and make your own patches, which is quite amazing. I mean, I haven't really got into the sort of iPad world yet. It's quite a new thing for me, and I bought a load of the synths. I think one Christmas time a couple of years ago, like the Poly 6 and the Mono Poly, and I just had them on there because, you know, you're sort of travelling at the time. It's just something to do, but I never really sort of took it seriously with the iPad. But I'm starting to now, and seeing the potential of what can be done. I've still got, because I was quite impressed with the Animoog, the Moog kind of thing. That was a pretty cool sounding synth, but I'd actually like to try it out on the system in a mix and see if it can actually sit them sounds into a mix. It'd be quite interesting to see that. Over here we have my Neve rack, which is just four 1084 originals and a big hole because they're bloody expensive. I use these. I use them for the mic preamps. I've got a dual stereo DI running into them, which my synths run through, that gives it on the mic levels. And the other two I use for microphones. And I track through these, and then I'll use them. I'll use two of them on the drum bus at the end of the mix, and two of them also on the master bus, just to tickle them and basically use the transforms in them, because they do sound really good. Summit equalizer at the top there, sort of classic, sort of Pultec sounding equalizer again. Not really using it that much anymore, because I sort of prefer this version of it, but they actually are really good. They're a really, really good equalizer and big, warm sounding. Yeah, I think that's about it for over here. Oh yeah, I've got the Axis Virus TI, which it's never really got any use, because that much use, because there was always a problem with the USB, because it's got that plugging and it's always latency and driving you mad. But I think the last update they've done of the software has actually brought that up to date now, and it's supposed to be quite good. So we'll actually maybe try and start using that again, because I mean, I like the Virus stuff. They're a good sounding synth. They're obviously not analog synths, but for the analog modelling. They sound pretty good, and there's definitely got some use for them. And there's like zillions of patches on them, which, you know, it'll take a lifetime to go through them. Here we've got a Roland VP550, which is basically, it was a newer version of the vocoder. I used to have the Roland VP330 years ago, which was the sort of, you know, the electro robot voice one that everyone used to use in the 80s. It sounds quite similar. It is a different sound, but I actually really like the sound of these. Doesn't really get that much use because I don't really put a lot of vocoder in my records, but every now and then you do. But it's got a really good string ensemble on it as well. The strings sound really, really nice on it. I need to actually use that a little bit more. Okay, here's a Prophet 8, which was Dave Smith's sort of update of, it's supposed to be the Prophet 5, I think, which sounds completely different. They're okay. I was never really a fan of them. It was a friend of mine brought it down, someone I'm working with, and he started sort of programming it, and he's very good at programming synths, and was getting some really, really lush sounds out of it. So I've actually started using that and getting it in the mix, which is pretty cool. Up here we've got an oversized mixer, which is a friend of mine's that he left down here. I've actually just bought one, a rat mixer, and basically what we've got this for is just to plug a load of synths into, so that they're all running at the same time, instead of bringing them up on inserts all the time and having to patch them in. But I literally bought, I think it was a couple of days ago, it hasn't arrived yet. It's like a small 3U Tascam mixer, 16 channels, so you can get 8 stereo keyboards in that. So we'll probably end up using that one as well still, and won't get rid of that. Under here there's Korg Wave Station. This just started using again recently after all the years, and that was the whole thing. I was talking about digital synths. People forgot about digital synths, and everyone's jumped on the analog thing, and that's why they've got so expensive. And digital ones you can actually still pick up quite cheaply at the moment. But I don't know, I feel that there's going to be a really big comeback of the digital synth world. I mean, I'm really enjoying using them again. And definitely what I'm finding is using these instead of like the plugins. I've got the Korg plugins, like the Mono Poly and the Wave Station, the Korg M1, which I've just bought as well. They just sound really lush, and they've just got a grit about them, and it's obviously the converters they're using in the synths. But the great thing about these is you can pick them up so cheap, a couple £100. Under that is a JD 990, which is also really, really lovely sounding digital synth. And I was talking about the iPad earlier, you can actually control it, which is, it's kind of like I think it was supposed to be like a JD 800 but in the box, which also we come to over here, which is a JD 800, which we have been using extensively for the last 2 or 3 weeks on this new project we're doing, and we're just getting some amazing lush sounds out of it. They're really, really, really good. Got lovely filters on them. Really, really, really good synth that. And there is an actual way of connecting the 990 and the 800 together. We were trying, about a week ago or so, but not with a lot of luck. It was, I don't know, MIDI problems we were having, but there's a way of doing it, and we'll get there eventually. Okay, going over to my sort of outboard rack. Right, where should we start? Right to left. Okay, so patch bay. Not like the big old patch bay I used to have in my desk, but because everything's hardwired. But it's just a few things that here I've got. That's actually going into a 1/2-inch tape machine that I've got out there. It's stuck in the corner. It's actually it looks like a piece of shit, but it's one of my secret weapons. I've just had it serviced actually, and it's a Studer A80 with 1/2 inch, and I've sort of been using it on my master bus again to run stuff through, and like just tracking vocals and stuff like that. It sounds really, really good. So that's on the patch bay. There's the EMT 140 reverb plate, which is next door, the big 6-foot thing, which is also on there. Right, what was this one? The Roland DEP5. A friend of mine had it, and he said there was one lithogram on it you've got to use, and it's just really good on strings, and it's got this big sort of reverb, and it's just basically set to it, and it does sound really, really good. Then go a bell flanger. Again, really, really good sounding flanger. There's something about I think there are some good ones in the box, like those. I've got the Sound Toys bundle, the Phase Mistresses, and I think the Meta flanger, and I've got what other ones have I got in the box? The Acoustica Nebula free stuff, which is quite processor hungry, but they're quite good. But there's something about just using the analog ones I really like. The bell flanger is really, really good. Just some conversion systems for over this side, the AD stuff, the Apogee, old school filter mutator, which again, it's like the sort of things like this don't use very often, but when you do turn them on and start using them, you think, oh wow, it does sound really, really good. I haven't used it for a while, but I'm going to start using it again, really. This one here is it's quite interesting. It's a Boss Super Chorus, and again, I picked it up for about 70 quid, and it sounds amazing. The chorus on it is just so lush and big. Something else that I find that it's just a little bit better than using the stuff in the box. That's a great sounding machine. The green filter thing, the resonator, I've had that for years. So I think there was it might have been based on the Korg PS 3100 synth. That was the one that had all the resonators on it that are really, really expensive now. It's sort of like a polyphonic MS-20 kind of looking type of thing. But yeah, there's the resonators from that. It's a really good. They sound really good and lush actually, and you pick them up for peanuts as well now. Then I've got a Marshall amp down here with the effect unit that goes with it, the JMP1. I've got some speakers, some cabinets in there, in the other room, which we just we'll mic it up sometimes and put like SM57s, and we just put things like a 303 for it and put it through the cabinet and record them through the mics, and it just sounds mental. It's that's it. It's another dark art, miking amps, and which is not used a lot in electronic music, because I suppose everyone uses guitar rig and things like that now. But if you do want some really good distortion, you just do that, and it's proper. It sounds great. Okay, over to this side, we've got one of these what are they called? Brain compressors, this is an interesting bit of kit. There's only a few of them been made, and it's a guy in Brighton that makes them. So I bought one. Pablo from Uncle owns one, and James from the Freemasons owns one, because we're all Brighton based. I think what he'd done with this machine, it was supposed to be based on like an SSL clone, which there's so many of them about, but there was some kind of mistake or something in the circuit somewhere, and on drums, if you want really, really aggressive drums, it's got this like smash button on there, and you just put it on, and the compression just goes way out of control, and the transients and the drums just get so loud, it's ridiculous. So I was using that to track quite a lot of things through and just smash, and then like hit the converters quite hard and get your square recordings of stuff. And interesting bit of kit if you can get it. Below that, Transient Designer. Again, got the ones in the box, like got the UAD stuff. That's probably my favourite plugin platform, the UAD. I love that stuff. But there's something about the analog is it's just so tight, and you know, you can really get aggressive kicks and snares, and just for tightening stuff up, I find it a little bit more accurate than the ones in the box, and just a little bit more ballsy. So I still use that quite a lot. Under here is DAV Electronics SIPP, which is actually a mid-side converter. So you can basically run either an analog compressor or equalizer into this, and you can use one side to do the mids and one side to do the sides. That's another thing. Another dark art is mid-side mixing, which I've got extensively into. But to be honest, mostly with the mid-side stuff, I'm doing most of that in the box because it can do that. So I haven't really used that much, but I should. Under that, classic AMS delay. Still use that all the time. I find it. I don't know. There's something about the AMS stuff. It just works. It just sits in the mix, and it's a digital delay that's just always worked for me. I've got a couple of other units down there that I'll show you in a minute. I've got like a copycat tape delay, but I'll bring them over in a minute. Manly, very Mu. That's a very, 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 very subtle compressor, but what it does is amazing. It's a really, really good bit of kit. I've been using that actually on my drum bus, and it's like with most very Mu compressors, you know, it doesn't feel like, you know, that it doesn't do much, but it just glues things together without losing too much. It's even, they've got like a side chain on there as well to let the bass out, but I seem not to use that because it just kind of compresses the right frequencies for me. So yeah, I'm mostly use that on the full drum bus. Under that is a really rare piece, AMS tape fader. These sounds fantastic. They're really, really lush, big and lush phaser that you hardly see them come up anywhere. I think a lot of the Daft Punk records were done with these machines, and the French boys like to use them, like Zadar, and you know, yeah, it's just one of those boxes that you just, especially, you know, you've got like sort of nice lush chord sounds, and you just put that up on a bus somewhere and just push it out a little bit, and it will just make the sound nice, big and wide, and really that big fat analog sound. I really, really, really like that machine and use that a lot. Under that is the Roland Dimension D, another one I still use a lot. I've got the UAD version, which is also really good, but having the original, you've just got that instant Roland chorus that was on the old Juno keyboards, but yeah, you can use that on a lot of things. Again, it's lush on pads, strings, background vocals, so many things. It's a really, really good machine. That's getting used a lot. Right, the API rack that's half empty. It's an API 550 equalizer, which is sort of classic API equalizer. They're used a lot. People use them a lot of drum sounds. They are really, really good on drum sounds. They've got an EQ curve on them like nothing else. They're very punchy, and they work really well on like kicks and snare drums. Find them most useful. That's really, really good. Next to that is a stereo toolbox, which is like a mid-side compressor, and it's got a widener on it and stuff. It's not a bad sounding machine. I find a lot. I see that I haven't really gone mad on the API stuff, because I think a lot of the problems with these things is like the power supplies as well, actually giving the units the power that they need to work properly. So I've tried a few modules here and there, but I really have not got carried away with the API thing. That hasn't been a can of worms for me, thank God. Okay, under that is a Yuri 1176 Blue Stripe, which actually my friend Ian Riv built. Ian Riv is a guy that works down here with me, and he's like the mad tech person of the studio. He's really good at getting things working, like synthesizers, like wiring up what I was talking about earlier, the Motu 828s to do the expert sleeper stuff and get all the modular stuff going, tuning. That's what he does. But also he likes to build machines. So he's got into this kit building stuff, and he built this 1176 from scratch. Because obviously the price of the Blue Stripes now, they go for like what, £5,000, just like ridiculous money. But he built it, plugged it in first time, all worked, and it sounds bloody amazing. It really, really does sound good. I actually, you know, I thought we had an original, well, not the original Yuri, but the Universal Audio remake of the Model D down here, and I thought that actually sounded better, much more aggressive. So props up to him for really like noodling out and geeking out and getting his soldering iron out and building stuff. Yeah, I've got I've actually got a list of things for him to build now, because we was talking about it all the time, going, oh yeah, but there's these equalizers we can build, and you know, so it's like let's build some more stuff, because you know we're gearholes. Right, on to the next part. The blue. This is, I actually bought this off a guy in the States. You know, it wasn't a lot of money. I think a grand odd or so, and basically it's a copy of the original LA2A Teletronics compressor, but this version, like unlike the reissues, it has all the UTC transformers on the back, and basically that's our main vocal compressor, and we use it on bass sometimes as well, more live bass stuff it gets used. But on vocals, it's just the cream of the cream. It just, we'll run it usually to the sound. What we do is we'll run the vocals through one of the Neve equalizers, push the 3K area really hard, like ridiculously hard, like, and then run it into the compressor. So yeah, obviously without the compressor, it's sounding way too harsh for it to sit in the mix, but it squashes it so much and just puts this warmth and beautiful sound on it. It just sits in the mix like nothing else. So that's what we kind of use on our vocal chain, which is really, really cool. Below that is the big tube Fairman compressor. That I use on the master mix, and I also use it for tracking. So yeah, my master chain, you're sort of getting to grips with it now. We'll use some like in the box equalizers to do the mid-siding stuff. Then it will run through an SSL, then it runs into this one, which is great. It just tickles about, what would we run that at? About half a dB to 1 dB minus. It compresses, so not much at all, but what it does, it just puts this tube warmth on and gives it a stereo width like you wouldn't believe. But then again, they're not a cheap machine, you know. They go for about 10 grand or something stupid. Yeah, it just does something to the mix. So yeah, it will go SSL, go into that, and then it will go into the Pultec equalizers, and then a few other limiters in the box stuff. But that's been the great thing about having my system in the box, where I can actually use technology of the digital world and the analog world and mix them together and get them sort of big sounds that, but keeping the warmth.